Paulette. I lost my sound. Okay, that's my bad. Anyway, we're here, Paulette. We're here. Welcome,
Are we
welcome,
live?
everyone.
Shall I do the
Yeah,
whole
we're
shaky,
live.
shaky thing? Hang on a minute.
What could have
Any
gone
old
wrong?
song is wonderful.
That's never happened to me before. I've never not had it work. I don't understand, but it's fine. We'll survive. Oh, I know what
It's
happened. My
fine. We'll survive.
How you doing,
Well,
Paulette?
I'm doing all right, thank you. I'm doing all right. I've done my homework, so I'm ready for today. My throat's a little bit scratchy, so I apologize if I start to go a bit Daleki. I've got my hot drink ready, so hopefully not too bad. Yeah, it's a lot to get through, but I'm excited because I think if we crack this nut, it helps everything. Everything in communication, relationships, work, friendships, absolutely everything this will make a difference in. So it's definitely something worth investing in.
I agree
So,
100%. Totally agree. Totally agree. This is probably the most
and I know
important
Michelle will agree. Is my Michelle and Michael agree because they're here to agree with us.
Mm.
And the thing about I'm going to ask Michelle first. What do you putting you on the spot, darling? What do you think the most important thing about emotional intelligence is?
I think, first of all, willingness to learn what that is if we don't know, right? To be open to what that means by our own definition. It's really the ability to recognize and understand, manage, and handle your own emotions, which in turn helps you navigate others, right? Like, not to do that for them, but when you're able to see where you start and where they end, you have
Yep.
a lot more grasp, knowledge, and are really more authentic in your relationships, your business, your home life, your friends, all of that. And there's several steps, but
Perception, isn't it? It's all about your perception and their perception. And if you don't understand that, then we're in trouble.
which everybody doesn't. Everyone has their own maps. So their own beliefs, their own upbringing, and without being aware, we're kind of going through the dark trying to have a conversation. It's a wonder we communicate.
And this is our resident counselor here. So if we have anybody who gets triggered or worried or anything in the room from anything that we speak about, it shouldn't be too triggering, but just in case, Michelle's standing by and I have her number and we can give it out to anyone who is particularly anxious or worried about anything we speak about. The other thing I would also say for me that like the really key ones is when we have perspective on everything, it's like we have a different lens to our camera. So it's like when we have the lens that's the very narrow lens, we can only see the little bit. But when you open the lens up and you get to see the whole picture, suddenly you're far more aware of what's going on. It's no longer just the bee on the leaf. It's what the bee's doing. It's taking honey or taking nectar. It's doing this. It's doing that. Then over there's something else happening, and there's a child over there having. Suddenly there's a whole scene kind of comes out in front of you. And when somebody says to you, what did you take a photograph of? It might have been the bee that you took the photograph of because that was the biggest thing and the most important thing through the lens. But actually, the bigger picture is that there was a lovely family scene of a park and happy weekend day for many people. And so the answer is when you ask the person who took the picture of the bee, what did you see when you went to the park? What did you? I saw this bee and I was really close up to it. That's it. Right? When you talk to all the other people in the park, what did you see? Well, we played ball, we had a picnic, we did this, we did that. Nobody mentioned the bee because nobody else saw the bee. Right? And that's where I see about perspectives. And I think that is the biggest cue for everybody is that we don't pick up on the little nuances that perhaps or more like the older generation, I put myself in that. Now I find out that I'm a boomer, which I'm not happy about, but we won't go into that. The fact that the older generation are probably more akin to picking up cues, because we're used to working with facial expressions, we're used to working with actions, people taking particular types of actions, whereas most, younger people have only got the heads down and they're looking at something. So you wouldn't get a cue, you just get a grunt, right? And if it's from a bedroom, it's just a noise. It just says, yeah, dinner's ready, and that's it. And that's supposed to go, yes, thanks, Mum, I'll be down in 10, in the middle of playing a game or something or whatever. The communication isn't there. And it's down to us to make sure that we navigate this well so that we can pass it on to our other generations. Because if we don't, this is like the most important thing that I can ever tell you. Emotional intelligence is the most important part of communication there is. And when you've got it down pat and you know it and you're able to explain it clearly, I think that everybody wins. So I'm going to stop talking, and I'd like to ask Annie, what's your opinion about what I've said so far, and where do you come in on this?
I say I've just done. I did a series of rooms on each of the emotional intelligence components. So self-awareness, self-regulation.
I've been to a few of them, yeah.
Motivation, empathy, and then social skills. But I think I will say this. I think this is the most important topic we've ever talked about. When we learn, maybe there's really two things from my side which have changed my life. I think learning not to be a doom monger. Just learning to expect things to go right. And I've learned recently. I'm talking about probably last year or so, really, to just believe in myself, believe in the world, believe in other people. See, that helps me do without that. Before, maybe I said before that, I was suspicious. You're anxious. Something happens. You're like, it must be them trying to get at me. It must be about me. They're trying to harm me. It's not. None of it's true. People just do what they do for them. And it's not. It was never what they're doing that's important. It's how I respond. It's how I see it. If you think they're trying to get at you, then you become jumpy, angry. Anxious, worried. Truly frustrated. Well, I've learned to let all that go and deal. I've learned to deal with my situation in front of me. So that, and I think when I do that, Paulette, I find that the world is a great place. People want to help you. They love you, really. They do love you. It's not really. But I think this spreads across everything. For me, I've mentioned this a few times in our conversations, where when I eventually dawned on me that it was not my family who are annoying, who are hateful. Because I'm doing what I'm doing, they're doing what they're doing downstairs. It's me. It's how, if I go down angry, then they will also respond with conflict. Whereas when I learned to just go down in a good mood, be present, like you said, talk to people. Could I talk? There's nothing beats talking, Paulette. Real, genuine conversations. You're present. They're present. I might as well say I had one this evening. So my wife's like, how do I convert this PDF to Word? I'm like, that's easy. I do it every day. Here's a link. And of course we do it. It doesn't work, right? I'm like, calm down. I'll go upstairs. I'll do it and send it to you by email. And so I'm saying that's just learning to just calm down, fix the problem, deal with the issue. You're fine. Whereas now it could easily have been, this never works for me. The world is a terrible place. All of that stuff. We don't need it. It doesn't help us. We waste so much time, and then we cause even more conflict. We cause even more bad results that we don't want because of the way we think, the way we respond to stuff. We assume it's probably the worst part of this thing, right? We assume
Oh, yeah.
it's going to go wrong. We assume that person's got it in for you. Whereas in infamy, that person's got it in for me. Yeah, they don't. They ain't got time for that. You do you, and they will do what they do. Learn to know. I think
Absolutely.
my thing in my events for Let's Know, it was over 10 weeks, so that's been a long time reading the books and really trying to take it all in. So my thing is simply we need to learn to just stop, breathe, and look at the situation again. Don't
What
react.
would Walter do?
Yeah, exactly that. Don't react, respond. Choose how you want to respond. I said that is key here. And Michael, you were there when I was arguing these points, right? I'm saying that emotional intelligence can feel a little bit cheap. It's not cheap. But no, I say it can feel cheap because it helps me achieve what I want. I want what I want, right? If everyone I talk to for this, I have to know what I want and how to get it from people. That means tapping into my calmness, tapping into how I respond to them, and then working out how do they feel. And then once you know how they feel, how you feel, then I can start working out how do I get what I really want. Sometimes it's being extra nice, sometimes it's being extra horrible, sometimes it's in between. I'm saying that's emotional intelligence, Paulette. I could talk all day about this. Let me stop talking. Michael, you flashed your mic, right? No, Paulette, feel free.
Michael, let's hear your take.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Perfectly, my friend. Perfectly.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So, yeah, I heard everything you said. I'm always in the room listening to what you have to say. Sometimes I'm in disagreement, but most of the time, especially with regards to emotional intelligence, yeah, on the whole part, you are right. But going back to Paulette's question, what's the most important part about DEI or emotional intelligence? Not DEI, but emotional intelligence, EI. And most important part to me is an aspect that you've already talked about, Annie, and that's empathy. Emotional intelligence drives empathy and allows you to empathize or feel another person's pain, expands your horizon in that respect so that you get it. You get closer, you get to understand, and puts you in the zone where, well, now that you understand, what can we do? What are the solutions, etc., etc. But that's basically it for me. It's the empathy part of it. It's a huge deal to be able to understand the person's side and what they're going through, and then on top of that, understand yourself, because you have to empathize with yourself as well. It's a big deal. Um, don't put up a charade uh, with your own emotions or with your own feelings. Empathize with yourself and understand who you really are and what is true about you and what is true about your history and your ancestors, etc., etc. Empathize, try to understand, try to get to the point where you can relate to the other person's issues more clearly, as opposed to just being standoffish.
I think you've been reading my notes, sir. I think you've been reading my notes, Michael. That's pretty spot on.
Carry it away.
That's and it's fantastic because knowing your emotions, you need to be aware of where you are, obviously, on your journey towards empathy. Now, empathy is a great word. It's overused and understood. But I'm also going to use self-awareness. Now, self-awareness can be, again, misunderstood, and I will go into that as well. And emotional regulation. Now, there are some people where the slightest little problem, they will burst into tears. They will be unable to handle it. That doesn't mean that they haven't regulated their emotions. It means that they have an anxiety issue that has never been addressed. So I don't want to use that person as my example, because that's somebody who has an issue that needs to be addressed. I'm talking about the people who we would like to say are generally got it together. Recognizing and responding to your emotions and those of others, and managing your reaction is like the singularly most important thing, right? If somebody snaps at you and you snap back at them, you are in a snappy war, because that's what you've done. If somebody snaps at you and you go, whoa, where'd that come from? I wasn't expecting that. And then you wait a moment. Is everything okay? Right? It changes their perspective on what's just gone on, because they can't really argue with, is everything okay? They've either got to say yes or no. And if it's no, they'll then tell you what the problem is. But up until we're at that point, we have no clue why they're being snappy with us, right? So it's about recognizing and responding to the emotions of others. It's really important also to understand that everybody's historical family situations, everybody's various situations that they come from in their life, what they've been through, what their heritage is, as you say, ancestry comes into it for sure. And generally speaking, we are all carrying a rucksack of baggage, whether we like it or not. How that affects us is at its most within emotional intelligence. This is the place where everything shows itself. It's like the it's like the beast that won't go be quietened, okay? Because it will. This is the area within everything that shows you're lacking of understanding, you're lacking of empathy, you're lacking of consideration, you're lacking of compassion, you're lacking of all those things, but also your kindness to yourself. If you can't be kind to yourself and empathetic towards oneself, then you're going to find it very hard to be able to do that to somebody else. So I think that was very much what you were saying anyway, Michael. So I'm sure my notes have been pinched, but anyway. The other one that I really go on about, when I used to do sales training, I used to talk about active listening. And people go, oh, what's active listening, right? Now, to me, active listening is where you listen to what somebody says and not what you think they say, not what you want them to say, not what you expect them to say. So when they say, would you like to come to the dance on Sunday or come out for a meal on Friday? And they say, no, thank you. And you get, I'll pick you up at 7, right? Guess what? They're not going to be there, right? Because that's not what they agree to. And this is where active listening is so important. So if somebody is making a point in an argument, they need you to listen to that and then be able to digest it, to put a perspective on what they've said, and then to decide whether or not you're going to react to it, whether you're going to try to calm the situation down and have an adult one-to-one conversation, or whether or not you are in argumentative mode where you feel like they're wrong and they need to be told, right? And the key with me with everything is with active listening, I always say you are seeking feedback. So you give a little bit, that's the question. Is everything okay? Are you all right? Have you had a bad day? anything happen? You're asking very gentle questions that give that person the opportunity to go, no, it was an awful day. This happened, that happened. Okay, let me make you a cup of tea and let's talk about it. All right? Don't take that horrible day out on the one person who loves you more than anyone else in the world, right? Because it's not their fault, right? You just happen to be the person they came home to. So it's about trying to be better than the reactor, right? And I have this thing where I say to people, turn the oven down. And what I mean by that is, if we're in an argument and we're at 200 degrees, we are going for it, right? And it's very hard to come back from some of those arguments and have a meaningful, loving, caring conversation because the heat is so hot. So what we need to do is turn the heat down, get it down into the low hundreds, maybe even 80 if we can, right? If we had a hob, it would be simmering. We want it as low as we can take it by taking the heat out. So they're making them a cup of tea, telling them to sit down and take a load off. Just have 10 minutes. Just give yourself a break, Would you like a little bit of chocolate? Would that help? You're kind of not being condescending. You're trying to be on side. You're trying to be as you said, empathetic and on team as you can be. And that to me is about active listening. And that is you listening to what is being said, engaging with it, and then using your own self-regulation in not reacting, right? Because it's so easy to say, well, I wasn't working with you today, so all that crap that you've had today ain't nothing to do with me. I weren't at your office, so why are you shouting at me, right? But your self-regulation of going, okay, you've had a really bad day. I need to just give you a chance to calm down, take a load off, and then we can have a gentle conversation at simmering, right? Take the heat out. So I think that's a really good way of visualizing the difficulty with that particular active listening piece, is to turn the heat down wherever you can, and that makes it easier. Understanding your own emotional triggers, right? If you know that you've had every single day that person has come home from work for the past 2 weeks and gone, Sheila did this and Sheila did that and Sheila did the other. And you're like sick of Sheila, right? You're sick of hearing about Sheila, but you still have to have the ability to say, okay, Sheila is giving my wife a really hard time. I need to be the bigger person here and try and get the cup of tea, calm it down, and then get to why Sheila is being such a beast and what is going on. What's the issue here with Sheila? So I think that that's the other part about it. It's dealing with your own emotions at the same time as trying not to react can be very difficult. And if you've got your own triggers where you're like, I've got so much going on at my own office. If I only told you 10% of what happened today in the classroom, or 10% of what happened in the office, or 10% of what happened on LinkedIn today, right? And all you want to do is moan about bloody Sheila. So that's when it goes. Do you understand? That's when it will go all, to pot. So the next thing to say is that if you can understand verbal cues, right? So if you're looking at somebody, and I was just saying that it's very difficult to do that when someone's got their head in their phone or their head on their iPad or computer or whatever. So, you can only really pick up, these non-verbal cues if they're looking at you. But or if they give you the cold shoulder in bed, you don't know what you've done, but they've just turned over. Or you say something and they go, nope, Okay, what does nope mean, you know? Or so I'm going to make a cup of tea. Would you like one? No, thank you. Oh, okay. Somebody's got the ump over something. Wonder what I've done, says Charles, thinking in the corner, you know. We give cues without even knowing it. Our facial expressions are, you know, especially me. I mean, I could do girding competitions, you know. I really do. I mean, Melissa's got the eyebrow, but I've got sort of the like I've got a dirty smell under my nose. You know, I get the sort of look, and Charles does it back at me. What does that mean? He says. I'm like, I don't know. And it's like I've got either that ice cream, you know, the ice cream that goes in your eye, that one, you know, I either get like a bit sort of eye like that, or I do the gurning one, which is bad smell under my nose. And that's my grumpy face. That's when don't push it, because I'm ready for a fight. So the non-verbal cues can help us. So look out for them. Don't look out for mine because they're mine, but look out for your families, look out for your partners, look out for your kids. You know, we hear so much nowadays of, oh, social media, but you know, at the end of the day, if a child or a young person isn't looking at you, then you can't learn their visual cues because their head's down. So, you know, grunting is not an answer. I don't respond to grunting. And I have a friend who told me that she texts her child to tell her child that dinner's ready. And I'm like, I beg your pardon? She texts her child who's in bedroom to tell her that the dinner's ready to come down for their dinner. And I was like, wowza. I said, and do you have phones at the dinner table too? She said, it's just easier than having the argument. And I was like, yeah, wow. You know, you can't argue with that. There's no point. You know, there are some times when you want to get into a battle, but that isn't one of them. I can't change that situation, so I have to accept it. Trying to show that you understand the other person's perspective. Michael made a very good point there, and he was saying, you know, that it's seeing it from everyone's side, and that's not always easy. Yeah. And sometimes it's easier to blame. We are a nation of blamers. We like to blame, we like to point. It must have been you who used the last of the toilet roll. It must have been you that did this or that, or the last of the toothpaste, or whatever it is that you're going to be arguing over. And actually, it could have been you, because the last bit in the pump might have been you. And you'll swear blind that it wasn't, right? But you brushed your teeth and they followed you in. So whose fault was it? Not mine. Can possibly be mine, right? And we argue about the most ridiculous things, and these little things, these small things, unfortunately, are the ones that get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's learning to say, okay, yeah, it must have been me. Sorry. So easy. Sorry. Yeah, it must have been me. I must have done that. Yeah. I was the last one in the toilet. I must have used the last of the toilet roll. I know that I would always change the toilet roll because I can't stand it. But if it's going to save an argument, I'll take the blame, right? Last night, Ben was changing his sheet and it didn't fit his bed. And it obviously got one from uni. He's got a 3/4 bed. He was trying to fit a double into this, and he was trying to scream and shout because his bloody mattress wouldn't fit in this sheet, you know? And Charles shouted out, "Get another one." And it was like, oh yeah, that's the solution, isn't it? But meanwhile, Ben is wrestling. It's a full-blown wrestling match with the sheet that doesn't fit the mattress. The solution is sometimes staring you in the face, but we can't see it. And that, to me, is one of the biggest lessons you can ever learn in life. If you step away from a problem, and I mean this really in all seriousness, if you step away for just a second, I know I always say, what would Walter do? And that's like the box breathing, the 4 in, 4 out. But if you can just step away from a problem and step back in it, 9 times out of 10, you've got the solution. It's there, staring you in the face, but you couldn't see it 10 minutes ago or 5 minutes ago before you went off and made the cup of tea or whatever else it is you're going to do that's going to give you that brain space to go and work out, or mind space to work out what you're going to do, right? So identifying and eliminating stress triggers are so important. We are all living with these stress triggers, and we don't even know what they are. If somebody asked me to write down my stress triggers, I'm not sure I could do it, but I'm sure my partner could. And I think that's the true of all of us, right? And our family and our children and everybody around us knows what our stress triggers are, but perhaps we don't. So that's something to really consider. Try to have a collaborative mindset. Now, I always say teamwork gets the dream job done. The more in the team, the quicker the job gets done. So if we have a problem, the cleaner's not coming, right? The house needs cleaning. So I can walk the Hoover around with my stick for a little while. I can do that probably for about half an hour. That will get all downstairs done for sure. And then the boys can take the mopping and someone else can run around with a fluffy thing. And it won't be done as well as the cleaner, but it would be done. I don't mind doing the kitchen or the bathrooms, and we can work it between us. But if you don't have that collaborative mindset where it's just, oh, it's all on me, I have to do it all, it's all going to be my problem, then you are going to be begrudging doing it. So you're not doing it with a bit of music on and wiggling around, dancing to whatever it is you're hoovering. And, the music's on loud because obviously it's got to get over the hoover. And that might drive the rest of the family mad. But if I'm hoovering, I've got music on. Or it might be that I'm doing the dusting, which is very funny because I go around things. I'm not very good at that. I sort of I waft. I'm a wafter. So I don't do a very good job. When the cleaning lady comes back, she'll say, "Who did you have last week?" I just look at her and I go, "I'd prefer not to answer that question." Plead the fifth and all that. Yeah, I admit I'm rubbish at dusting, so I'm probably better off with the Hoover. But then the boys can't stand the noise of the music. So, the thing that I'm trying to say here, it's really important that if you have that collaborative mindset, that team mindset, you seek a mutually beneficial solution immediately. You've already solved the problem because you're doing it together. And because you're doing it together, it sort of doesn't seem such a big issue. And I think that is kind of one of the biggest bonuses you can have in collaborative thinking. Body language, tone of voice. I've spoke about my facial expressions. Tone of voice can be everything. I can be a sulker. So you'll get the ask a question, you'll just get a that means there's something wrong. But that doesn't mean that I'm particularly angry. I might just be a bit annoyed or miffed about something. So the is a expression of you're not getting spoken to, you're getting noised at. Body language, as I said, turning over in bed, the cold shoulder, as they call it, not wanting to be in the same room with a person because you feel a certain kind of way. That's another big one. And these are the things that you can only really understand when you talk about them. And your best time to talk about them is when there isn't a problem, because that's the coolest point of the day, when there is an issue. So I will finish on, I've got 3 C's and 4 S's. I love to give, if I can, acronyms, but I couldn't on this one. So I'm just going to give it to you as I make it myself. 3 C's. So number 1 is to have a consciousness and a mindfulness of your emotions. So consciousness and mindful of your emotions. That's the first C. The second C is to have compassion, being empathetic towards others. Underneath that, I've written / yourself. And as Michael said, you have to have empathy for yourself as well as for others. Connectiveness, the ability to get on with people. So that's the 3 C's: consciousness, mindful of your emotions, compassion, being empathetic towards others, connectiveness, which is the ability to get on with people. And then the 4 S's, I would imagine we've all probably heard a million times, but we always say that they're like the pillars of emotional intelligence. And they are self-awareness. They are self-management. They are social awareness. And they are self within emotional management. So it's yourself within the situation. Where do you see yourself in a situation? So I think I've lectured you all enough. Is there anything you'd like to come at me or change, or do you agree with most of what I've said?
Sorry, I lost my.
Can I ask a question?
Of course you can.
Thank you, Paulette. I'm learning from you. Thank you so much. What you said, this 3 C's, consciousness, and what are the other one?
Consciousness and mindful of your emotions.
Okay. Compassion and connectedness.
Compassion and being empathetic towards others.
Compassion,
and then the last one was connectiveness, the ability to get on with people.
Compassion and and connectiveness. Okay. Well, thank you. I'm learning from you. I can. Thank you.
I usually learn from you, so that's lovely to hear.
Yeah, thank you.
Collaboration, you see.
See, I think there is so much to this topic. You know, of course, I like your 3 C's. Your S's got me a bit lost. Self-awareness, self-management.
Self-awareness, self-management, self-awareness, self-management, social awareness.
Yeah.
And finally, self within the relationship management. So managing yourself, i.e. self-regulation, your own emotions, regulate. Like I said about the argument, you know, if you come into an argument and you're fired up and she's fired up, before you know where you are, it's gone from 0 to 200. You know, that's where you can manage self within that relationship. You know, within your emotions, you have to regulate self.
Indeed. Look, I agree with you. You know, everything you say, you know, of course I agree with you, but I think at the heart of this is our capacity to care, to love, to genuinely love ourselves and love other people. And I think when we learn to have genuinely positive feelings about other people, when we learn to have good intentions, the right intentions, then we will almost default to being sensitive, being all those awareness you talk about, Paulette. I think we have to genuinely care. You know, compassion isn't just a word. Empathy is not just a word. It's a real I don't want to use the word selflessness, like, because we used that yesterday. I think it's a genuine care for other people. You know, if I genuinely care about other people, you give them grace. You know, if something doesn't go the way you want, you give them grace, and you try and find out what's gone wrong. But but sadly, I think we live in a world of conspiracies, anxieties, fears, and loathing of ourselves and for others, where we expect everyone's got an ulterior motive. Let me give you an example. I like to talk in theories, and then we have to welcome all our friends who are here. A couple of days ago, literally a couple of days ago, Saturday, my client and I agreed the work we're going to do. And we agreed the price, we agreed everything, right? So all I had to do was send the document. I sent the agreement on paper. And the client said to me, 2 months ago, I've looked at it. Yeah, it's all good to go. I'm like, yes, I'm working happily, right? So I sent the document, I sent the agreement on Saturday night. And my client comes back and says, oh, I want to change it. It's a bit too expensive. I saw red, Paul. I saw red. Literally, I was like, I'm going to kill someone. Of course, it's just me here, right? How could this be? Is what I'm thinking, right? So I replied, and honestly, I replied with, look, I'm disappointed, but we're where we are. And that was it. And let's crack on, because it's got to be done. Because in my soul, all I want to do for my clients is publish the book and market the book. That's all I want. I just want that done, right? It's like, I don't think that the money is important, it's useful, but I'm saying that's not my thing. It's more, I got numbers of books to publish and work on. And everyone knows my 10,000 number, right? So one more is important to me, right? That's where I approach everything from. And then a couple of hours later, I think my client messaged me and said, right, let's talk. I'm like, I don't want to talk to you about this because you're evil. Obviously, I'm like, yeah, let's talk. Let's talk, right? Now, so I'm like, look, I just told you how I felt. I'm over it already, because I still have this bigger goal. I want your book to get out there to the world at all costs. That's where I'm coming from. The reason I'm telling you all this, my friends, because it's simply the fact that my choice to calm down, my choice to talk, my choice to listen above all else. Because the point was that my client has already published other books. They never told me this, right? So I'm saying, if you can do it yourself, why would you want to pay me to do it? I get it. It's fine. I really get it. It's not a problem. I'll do my thing. But here, the weird thing, my friends, is that we managed to negotiate for my client to pay me more than I had in the agreement for doing less. How can I be that? Right. That's the benefit of truly this conversation. And truly leading with love, leading with care for the people you're talking to, whether it's your personal, whether it's your partners, your kids, your pets. Then when you lead with love, things work out for the better. You find a place where you can talk, where you can agree things. Imagine if I was screaming at my client, you really are evil, I hate you, people always do this to me. Where would I have got to pull it? Probably lost a client. Right. So we need to learn to truly lead our lives with the compassion, the heart to do good for others, to do good for ourselves. I think with that heart, what's right comes naturally. It's rare that panicking is a solution.
I think that to say that, Annie, is lovely, and to say that is how we'd like it to be in the world. We're living in a world where that isn't the case. Love isn't the first thing that comes to mind. We aren't all loving on each other and caring for each other and looking out for each other. As a rule, we are looking out for ourselves. And when you are living in a very self-orientated world, it makes it very difficult to have that compassion. So I understand exactly what you're saying, but I'm also saying to you, it makes you the odd one out when you come with all the love. When I come out with comments like, you know, I really love you and thank you and appreciate you, and I almost see people going, you know, right? They're like frightened of me. There's a scary, loving monster over there who wants to love on me. Get her away, you know? And it's not natural to them, right? So it's a really interesting thing. I'm not doing a funny face when I do it before you laugh. I'm being deadly serious. When you go to some situation and you show compassion and somebody isn't expecting it, it scares the living bejesus out of them, right? Because they don't expect it. They don't know how to handle it. And you come on as being either too much, or you are potentially, you could be seen as being somebody who is a bit too forward.
Pretentious.
And
Can I?
a bit, yeah, pretentious, confident, a bit arrogant even sometimes.
No,
All those
egotistical.
words come out and they're not what you intended at all.
No.
But that's what's received because it's not natural to the receiver. Yeah. So that's where the active listening and the picking up on the cues would have helped make that conversation easier, because you know you would have been able to work out, this person doesn't want me to hug them, this person doesn't want me to necessarily even touch them, so there'll be no hugging here, right? That's you. Whenever I see you, I go like that, you go right like that. That's the hugging thing, right?
Don't do that sort of thing.
Reaction is, yeah, my natural reaction is to come and give you a hug. Your natural reaction is to run a mile. It's just, we're all different, right? But that's okay, because we live in a real hodgepodge of all being different. But the most important point is, as long as we know that, we can work our way around it, and we can all find a happy medium. Let's hear from Michael, and then we'll go to Professor Roxana. Love to hear what they've learned.
I have. Can I contribute to? Thank you, by the way. Thank you, Paulette. See, Annie, if you already know that you have a client that is already emotionally hot, and you don't want to go off on, and if you did go off on him or her, maybe you lost a client. So I think, and that aspect, that's where emotional regulation comes in. That's where emotional regulation comes in, because it's you don't want to lose a client. So at that point, if I were in your shoes, I can just give it some time. Give it some time. I can just withhold what I want to say, and I just control myself. Just control what I want to say. Maybe give him or her some time. We all think about it, and then come back to the topic next time, so that you, at least whatever the anger is, you can think about them and try to make sure that you have weighed what you want to say to that client, even though he or she maybe made you mad. So I think emotional regulation, even to me or you in that situation, comes in. If he's already mad, even though maybe mad because of something where he might actually be wrong, but for you to keep your client, because you don't want to lose that one. If you lose that one, maybe you might lose his friend, and his friend. It just, you see, it becomes a chain reaction. So I really like the place where we can put in on emotional regulation. We can regulate ourselves just like your child. Your child can get on your nerves sometimes. And then it depends on who is. Maybe it's the 40-year-old. Maybe you want to think about, you can postpone some discussions till the next day. By the time it is the next day, he has thought about it, and you have actually thought about it, and then you can handle the situation. So that's what I want to say, because really, anybody can hurt anybody anytime emotionally. And what you said, the next moment matters a lot. It could be couples, it could be your child, it could be your client. What you say, the next moment matters a lot. In fact, if it is going to come out bad, you don't want to say it because you can't pick it up.
I agree. If you haven't got, there's a saying in my life when I was growing up. You haven't got something good to say, don't say it at all.
Don't say it.
Anything.
Don't say it. Anyway, so I just came in there because I thought that if we can use that emotional regulation all the time, it doesn't matter who you are, it can come to you. So I just want to chime in there. I like listening to you and Paulette because you're lecturing me here.
No, thank you so much. Look,
the thing is, Annie, if you think of it, sorry, I was going to say, if you think about it as an oven, I always, even when I'm talking to grown-ups or children, if you think about it as an oven and you tell them you've got to turn it down, right? They can physically see a dial, right? And if it's on the red, we're in trouble. So bring it back to the green. And if it sits in amber, that's okay. But if we're in red, we're in trouble because we're both in red and we're going to be having a fight. Yeah. And if kids can work that out, and they can, and I've had children say to me, I never moved out of amber. And I'd say, well, what happened to green? They go, well, I can't do green yet. I'm working on amber. And I'd be like, okay, but that's fantastic if you can teach a child to stay out of the red and hang around the amber. Then when we get them back to where the green is, we're in a much happier family dynamic. And that is what, that's what I do with children. And I think if I can do it with kids, we should certainly be able to do it as adults. Agreed?
For sure. Look, Paulette, I want to give you a few things to hopefully explain to us, because I think these are my main drivers for emotional intelligence. I think when we can develop these, we're nearer. The first one, I think you mentioned a couple of times. I think this is where everyone, if I had to write a book about emotional intelligence, I would say start here. Learn to listen. Really listen. Don't respond. Just listen. Learn to care about what someone else is saying. I struggle in these events. So I've learned to just mute myself, to just listen, not for no reason other than just to hear what you're saying. So half the time I don't really think. I'm a simple-minded guy. Let me admit that, right? So I just learn to listen. If you listen to someone, it takes the heat out of the situation 100-fold, Paulette. Suddenly they feel heard. They feel like you care. It's not a cheap trick, but it's a simple trick we can all do. The more we listen, the more we hear, the more we can then decide how can I mold the situation to get what I want. I can't say that enough. I really can't say that. I'm saying that the heart of our conversation, Paulette, I think many people miss this, right? It's all about how do I get what I want? This is a conversation we're really having. It's not about how nice can I be. It's really how can I get what I want? The only way you can do that is by being emotionally intelligent. It's by bringing the other person into a trusting relationship, a trusting conversation where you're both open to give. Really. And I say the second step I'll say, really, if I had to write this handbook, is let's develop positivity. Genuine positivity. Expect goodness out of people. Expect goodness out of yourself. And then give goodness. And you'll be amazed how they give goodness too. If you approach situations expecting a war, you're going to get a war. You really are. If you approach situations expecting a pleasant, happy, constructive conversation where both our needs are met, That's what's going to happen. I say we have to learn that we attract the reactions from others, from the universe, by what we think and expect. So approach all situations with happiness and joy. You'll be amazed what happens. Just try it. You know, Nightingale always says, try it for a month. Genuinely try it for a month. You know, expect the best, and you suddenly see that you're getting the best. Of course, give the best as well. What's my last one? Oh, be the oddball. Be the any of the situation. Be the Paulette of the situation. Now, me and Paulette, we. It's naturally, it's not just me and Paulette, to be fair. Now, Dr. Roxana is a legend herself. As I see Michelle in the audience, Carolyn, I see you, Dr. Lisa, now Michelle B, Linda, say of course Dr. Melissa. And these are all people who have a heart of gold. You know, let's be on their level. You know, shower them with love. You know, yes, you might kill them with love. It's better that way than to have a war, I assure you. And you get a lot more of what you want when you shower everyone with genuine care, genuine interest. That's my take, Paulette. I wonder what you think about any of that.
I'm gonna come back to two words you used, which I think truth and honesty are vital, because people don't always tell the truth, and that can skew how we react. I think being open to give is there's nothing nicer than killing people with kindness. Being told you're, the queen of kindness is one hell of a compliment. Does it mean I get bothered by a lot of people for money? Yes, it does. But does it also mean that people have noted that I've got a good heart? Then that's good enough for me. Then I've won, right? So I don't even disagree with anything you said. The key is the listening, active listening is so important. And it's, if you're in sales, if you're in marketing, if you're in whatever your job, if you're in charge of a plant, machinery, whatever, we all have to follow instructions. We all have to do what is required of us. That is like a specific. We're given a specific instruction, we follow it. When we talk about this stuff around the edges, lots of people call it airy fairy. There are lots of people who think it's all a bit of fluff, but actually it's so much more than that, because you'll have better relationships at work, better relationships at home. You'll have easier marriages because of it. And kindness first and foremost is always the way to lead. And if you assume that that person is going to respond with gratitude, right? Then you give kindness, they give gratitude, you get the gratitude back, and then you feel like you've won too. So the two of you get something from it. So when you talk about who wins, the winning is it's not really a competition. It should be a communication where everybody gets something. It doesn't have to be that I get what I want and you get what you want. What we get is a happy medium where everybody is happy, and we end up in a place where everybody can go away from whatever the situation is feeling like they got what they needed. And if you can get to that point of mediation, then you're in a really good place. I've sat around the table before now thinking I was trying to solve the Northern Ireland problem. That's how fierce of a problem I had. And then when you actually break it down, everybody's hurt. People have all been hurt by each other. People have all been backstabbed by each other. People have all let each other down. And so there's so much hurt around the table that it's got to be cured first. You can't fix the company and the people until you fix the hurt. So, kindness and doing things with the right heart is always the way to lead. Always. And when you're in a situation where, like I've been, where I've had to say to people, look, I think the only way we're going to fix this is if we all have like an open forum where you get 5 minutes to say what went wrong with the company, right? And I'm going to record all those 5 minutes, and nobody is in trouble for anything they say. All right. I don't want it to be A, personal, and I don't want it to be B. All right. I don't want it to be specific about a person. If you want to talk to me about that separately, we'll have a conversation. This is an opportunity for you to tell me where you think the company has gone wrong, where you think the company has let things slide. Okay. And when people do that, they feel so included. They feel like they're part of it. They are so willing to help fix the problem, rather than feel like someone's come in and this is how it's going to be. You're going, you're being sacked. Factory, this is closing, shutting that, doing this. You know, I come in and say, let's talk, right? It all starts with a conversation. And it all starts with us being empathetic towards each other. And if we can't do that, guys, you might as well shut the door now.
I
And we
agree,
will
but
shut the door.
Paulette's, you know, that's what I'm thinking in my head. Some people will say to you, "Oh, but I've been so hurt. I can't forget. I can't forget."
Then they need to leave, because they're no longer going to be able to be part of a team. If you feel that way, that you cannot get over whatever it is, then you need to go. It's the same as in a marriage. If somebody's being unfaithful and you can't see past it, whatever Toulouse says about her raging waters or whatever they are, raging whatever it is, I still say I'd chop it off and it'd be gone, you know? And that's it, end of story. But the key point that I'm making is, you know, everything starts from a conversation. And if that person says, I can't forgive X and I can't forgive Y and I'll never be happy here, well, I'm really sorry. There's your resignation note. Thank you very much. And when someone sees you do that, it's all on my table ready. I've got their name, your name is, and I'll fill their name in and I'll hand it to them. And I say, you've got till tomorrow morning to think about it. If you come back tomorrow with a different attitude, you can come back to the table. And it's not nasty.
You sound like a meanie, but I know you know. Look, it's not being mean.
I know. It's you can't have rotten apples.
Yes, no, but I say also, I think you're very clear. I think you're clear in what you want. You're clear in where your boundaries are, where your lines are. You know what your values are. We have to be very clear.
But if we're trying to explain that to a table of workers who think their company's about to close down, if I walk in there as the most empathetic person they've ever met, with the most emotional intelligence of someone they've ever met, they're going to be like, we heard that you were the hatchet lady. And I'm like, well, the hatchet's in the car, you know, I don't have to come in here and be like that. But if you want me to be, I can be, right? I would rather us all sit around the table and have a conversation and work out a way forward together. And if anybody isn't happy with that, as I say, I've got the resignation papers here. All you need to do is sign it and you'll get you whatever you're due for the time you've been here. And it sounds like I'm being dismissive. I sound really dismissive, but I'm not. You have to have absolute clarity of thought that you're giving someone the chance to use every piece of empathy they have, look inside themselves. And if they can't find that, then it's impossible for them to be sat around the table with me. And I know it sounds cold, but that's what emotional intelligence is to me. We better let Michael speak. The poor man's been waiting for about 4 hours.
Michael spoke for a bit. Michael, we'll come to you. Look, I can't believe I haven't welcomed our friends. Let me welcome them quick, Michael. And we'll come to you. Dr. Melissa, Crayon and Concentric Circles coach, also international bestselling author several times over for the books she's written in the last year. Welcome, Melissa.
It's
How you
easier to
doing?
say Venn diagram.
I tell you, concentric circles. And there's a Venn diagram, of course. You know, if you think me and Paulette are being crazy, talk to Dr. Melissa, you find out how she transforms companies with very simple, practical strategies. Yeah, and I do, Dr. Melissa. Linda, thank you for joining us. Glad you're here. Michelle B, we see you. Michelle.
Hello.
Michelle R. So Michelle Ramos and Michelle B. And I am Paulette.
She's just joined us. Yay.
We have a neurodivergence room tomorrow. So please do join us with now, especially if you have experience of children or parenting children with special needs. Neurodivergent children, call them what you like. I'm saying some children have IEPs for a reason. How does it really apply? How does your society, your community really apply those IEPs? Some get implemented, many don't. This is a problem. And parents are furious the world over, UK, US, and many other countries, because the promises are rarely met. Come and tell us your experience. Come and give us your strategies to really get this implemented. Some of it might come down to what we're talking about today, Paulette. In emotional intelligence, you have to play the game. You have to play, how do I get what I want from the system? And that's a big game, I assure you. Join us anyway tomorrow evening. Let's talk about it. Dr. Lisa, everyone's favorite menopause dietitian, holistic health and wellness genius. Not to mention several times international bestselling author as well. No, we adore Lisa. So of course, we have our room tomorrow evening. We're talking about financial awareness. We're talking about how to build your wealth in midlife. And I said that we've got Leah Garcia joining us. Surprise to you, Paulette. And I'm trying to send you the link. Yeah, you know that already. So do connect with Lisa and do join us, my friends. Do join us. Caroline, we see you. Glad you're here. How you doing, Michelle? Michael,
hello.
to join us.
Hi.
To my big project to help
I'm
us
here
set up.
partially. How are you guys?
Oh, I forgot you were here. So I'm looking at you, Michelle. Ignore me. There's a word for people like me, right? There's two words. One starts with
He
D.
keeps me up at all hours of the night.
Yeah, I'll come to you. Give me a second for Michelle. I don't want to interrupt you when you start talking. Michelle, which Michelle is this? Michelle, that's Michelle Whiteside. I think so.
Yeah.
She'll say, so true, Annie. I have to run to meet my clients. I'm available messaging. So Michelle Whiteside is our resident therapist in the US, especially. So if you've got any issues, get in touch with us and we'll happily signpost you to talk to Michelle. I don't know what Michelle's saying. You can't control someone else's actions. You can control your own reaction. Exactly that, Michelle. That's what it comes down to, really. That's what it comes down to. Michelle says, in love and gratitude. I agree. See, Paulette, it's not that hard, but we'll make it more complicated if you ask me. That's our thing, right? Michelle says, when you assume, you take their voice away. Listening.
Yes.
We said listening for a reason. That's exactly it, Michelle. So greetings, Chinomso. Welcome. Glad you're here. Thank you for joining us all the way from Nigeria. Daniel's joining us from the US. So I love Daniel's. I'm coming from Daniel. Did I miss Wendy out? Hopefully not. No, I've mentioned it now, Wendy. Thanks for joining us. So Wendy, I just call her a genius, a true genius. And she's that person that everyone really needs to know, the person who has no ulterior motives, nothing she wants from you or me. She's just a lovely person all around. Of course, she's a successful person as well, but she's just a genuinely good soul. If you don't know who Wendy is, connect with her, and you see why I heap such praise on this amazing human. Thanks, Wendy. Daniel says, listening with more than your ears. I agree. Listen with your heart. Try it. Listen genuinely. Listen to really understand how are they feeling. What are they thinking? What do they want? What are they not saying?
Yeah.
That's
Body language.
Yeah, the whole lot. It
language.
has to be. Yeah, it has to be.
There is a saying. Bless Wendy. There is a saying in therapy that we say to ourselves is called wait. WAIT. Why am I talking? What you should be doing is listening, right? So when you find yourself talking too much in a therapy session, you must stop, give the other person the floor for you to be able to help them. And so I think that learning to listen has been a lifetime lesson for me, a lifetime. And when I heard wait, I was like, why are we not taught this when we're like 10? You know, if somebody had said, have your 2 minutes and stop, and then let someone else have their 2 minutes, the world would be a better place because everyone would have a voice. We overshadow people without realizing it.
As Wendy says, hearing and listening are very different. We can listen and not hear a word. Absolutely. Amazing that, because when we're not interested, we have other things on our minds. And being present, being just genuinely caring what the other person has to say. Genuinely care. Want to know, almost like
to active listening.
Yes.
Active listening. That's different. That's where you purposefully stop what you're doing and you give your full attention to that person. That is actively listening. You will garner so much more by doing that.
Look, sometimes, and I do know it's not something that I do say often. That's I said earlier. Just try some of these things. Just try. If you're struggling with getting what you want, if you're struggling with conflicts, if you're struggling with relationships, with trust in relationships, we'll take the work or even friend relationships, right? Try some of these things, and you'll be amazed how it would change everything for the better. And that's what I found in my life anyway. Maybe I'm wrong when I say, well, my life has changed everything. My business is growing. My wife brought me a cup of tea. I'll take that. I get half a chicken rather than it going to the dogs. I'll take that too. Everything was better when you are that person who has self-control, emotional balance, interest in others. Same conversation. Deborah, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for joining us all the way from Toronto. I appreciate you. I think I've missed Charles. But Michelle says Charles is here. Oh, do you mean Prince Charles or King Charles more like? Michelle, I don't know what you mean about, you want some cookies with the tea. Okay, so I think that's just, that's being nice. We're going the extra mile, I think. Correct me in a second, Michelle, of course. Henry, welcome. Thank you for being here. You are the beautiful soul, my friend. I don't know who Henry is. So do connect with him and you'll be amazed what this man does. He's a cancer specialist and also visionary. That's what I think he is. That's what I truly believe he is. LinkedIn user, I love this. The truth is always in the silence. In that truth. Yeah, it really is. I'm hoping it's Christiana. I could be Luz. I don't know who. I will see Luz these days. Michelle says, or respecting someone when they ask for a moment because a trigger was activated. Yeah, easier to give that moment when you care, when you show genuine interest in what that person is feeling, thinking, and going through. Have I mentioned Alexandra? I'm sure I have. Welcome, Lexi. Glad you're here. Lexi's doing amazing stuff. Inspire Light is her project, so do find that, and she's doing big work to.
I'll just let everybody know Lexi is going to be our guest on the next Mental Wellness Cafe. So we're going to try and help Lexi find some support. She needs a few bits, and we're going to help her find them.
Look, I met Lexi about a year ago. Yeah, I'm going to do this, Annie. I'm like, yeah, let me see it. And I just love when people take an idea from the thought into reality. Of course, I'm not saying Lexi's not having a hard time working hard, but she is. And of course, she's a mum as well, and she works. I'm saying so, but she's putting the work in, and she's come such a long way, Paulette, in the last year. It's an amazing thing. Yeah, so I can't wait for her to join us. Thank God. I love that again. I love some African names. This is truly insightful. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. I love your name, my friend. So I'd love to know what you do, who you are, and where you are, and all that stuff. Marsha's here as well. Marsha says, I'm having lunch listening to your share. Enjoying the conversation. Recently heard from a member who spoke up and got fired. Yeah, she's been super upset. However, because of her voice after she was let go, actions have been taken. She has a big heart. Humanity first. Yeah, look, now people will not always react the way we want, I don't think, for that. Sometimes we don't get what we want.
Well, the changes happened. It just happened after her. Now, what you hope is if the world is kind, which we are to believe, the universe will look after her and hopefully find us something else very quickly, because she's obviously a decent human being. So that's my hope, Martha.
I'm with you. I think that hopefully, if one company doesn't react or doesn't recognize her genius, clearly she has good ideas, great ideas, and to be implemented. Go and do it for yourself. Find the courage and do it for on your own too. Like I was just saying about Lexi. If the word is something broken, fix it. You can. If it comes to it, do it. Just do what you have to do. So one thing I didn't say earlier, Paulette. I think a lot of people don't do step one. They go down the road of it's all gone wrong. It's a disaster, right? I'm saying let's learn to do step one, and then let's see what step two is. Don't oh, that's gone wrong. That's gonna go wrong. Everything's gonna go wrong. No, it's not. Really, it's not. Take a step at a time. And with each step, have that positivity, have that kindness, have that clear intention, communicate, and the world's a better place for you. Now, for me anyway, I keep saying that because what works for me may not work for you. I accept that. Welcome, Sharon. I see you. So yes, you can benefit from strengthening listening skills throughout our lifespan. Agree, Sharon. And active listening is crucial to everything we're trying to do in life. It really is. Anyway, I'm so glad I learned some of these skills, Paulette, but I'm still learning every day. So that's why I still read the books. That's why I talk about these things, because each time I talk about it, I learn a bit more. Of course. Blessing, welcome. Thank you for joining us. If I've missed some comments, do forgive me. I'm all right now. I've welcomed everyone. Yeah, if you're here, my friends, drop us a comment. Say where you're joining us from. So we'd love to welcome you properly. So if I've missed you, please do forgive me. I'll do my best. I'll try again and see if I've forgotten anyone. Michelle Ramos, how are you today? You're muted, Michelle. You're not speaking to us.
No.
Oh, there she is.
We really need to work on this Michelle thing, because when I interrupted you a second ago, it's because I was on the other side of the room and I heard Michelle.
We'll survive. There's worse things in life, right?
Right.
Every time I hear
and I was like, he ain't even talking to me.
Every time I hear anything, anyone, I'm like, I've learned to just leave it and just face the other way, right? Unless you call me the person, I don't respond. But I know we're easily true. Our names are the best thing we've ever heard in our lives, right? So when you hear Michelle, you're like, what a beautiful name.
We got a lot of Michelles, and like it gets a little bit.
There's 3 here at least, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Michelle, I'm gonna say Michelle B. There's also Michelle Whiteside. There's you, Michelle. What's your take on our conversation, Michelle?
It means that I got to be unwaveringly unapologetic in who I am, and remember that meeting other people where they are doesn't mean they'll respect where you are. You're muted.
Unfortunately,
I'm
absolutely.
not to speak. I was trying not to
Absolutely.
speak.
No, absolutely. I
Mm.
think that whenever you are in conflict with somebody and there isn't a mutual respect and there isn't mutual acceptance of whatever the circumstance is, the only way to handle it is with the upper hand. The only way. And to have the upper hand is to always remain calm, is to always remain the one that's in control, the one that has your emotions in hand. And when you are dealing with difficult situations, and believe me, I know you are, and I have, you are emotional because you're fighting for something that's so personal to you. And if it's your child, or if it's yourself, or if it's what your home, or whatever the thing is that is so personal to you, when you're talking to a body who knows nothing of your circumstance, nothing of your history, nothing of your situation, and yet has an awful lot of opinions, and yet isn't aware of a thing that has happened in your life, the triggers that they can set off are immense, right? And so what I would say is, go on.
I was gonna say, it's like, it's not even the opinions or advice that I get, it's the dismissal. It's like, I love hearing other people's opinions or feedback or thoughts because it'll help me maybe explore something I didn't know, or maybe I might not agree with everything, but there might have been just one little nugget I took in. So it's not even that, it's when you allow yourself to believe that your safety for that vulnerability in those moments is there, but then it's the dismissal of what you're saying. It's like, I feel that when somebody to have to be able to say that they have emotional intelligence, they got to be able to admit that they don't dismiss other people, because if you can't, you cannot, well, regardless of what somebody feels, who are you to say it's right or wrong or bad or good? That's not for you. Who are, it's like even like as far down to saying, what does it feel like to be a girl? That's subjective. It'll be subjective for you, it'll be subjective for me. Who am I to say what you say it feels like to be a female is what, that isn't what it feels like to be female for me. So like, emotional intelligence, like, people, I think when they become aware of this, then they become more aware of how much dismissiveness that they actually do, because it is something that until I didn't know how much I dismissed others, like going through that process.
100%. And the active listening is the biggest part of that, because you won't dismiss what you can learn from. You won't dismiss what may have interest. You don't dismiss what has benefit or use, right? But a lot of people, and I've been in a room, the only female, and asking, can somebody please show me how to log on, because the system's different to anything I've worked on before. And nobody would help me because they were just finding it absolutely hilarious that the woman didn't know how to turn the machine on. And it wasn't that I didn't know how to turn it on, I didn't know where to even begin, because I was used to using a computer, and here I was on a system of these big Macs that used to be years ago, that which used to have in the trading floor. And you'd have 4 screens and this Mac, and I didn't know how to work this particular style. And if I said to somebody, is this how you are with everybody, or is it just me? And the guy looked at me And he said, what do you mean? I said, are you as ignorant with everybody, or is it just me? And he was like, ignorant? And I said, well, I've asked for help and nobody's offering it. So that's ignorance, right? Unless you're all deaf and you didn't hear me, in which case I apologize. And then they were like, and somebody got up and came over and helped me. And then from that moment onwards, I knew I didn't think I was going back for a second day, because they didn't want me there and they couldn't have made it more clearer, right? Every day it was nitpicking and it was horrible. It was a vile environment. And the thing that you just said that it just reminded me of this is I was dismissed every single bloody day. Absolutely dismissed. And this guy, a horrible man, his name was Michael, but no disrespect to this lovely Michael, but a different Michael. He said to me, do you know, I've never noticed what huge hands you have. And I just looked at him and I thought, what a stupid thing to say. In the middle of the office, what's it got to do with anyone else, right? So I sort of looked at my hands and I have got big hands. There they are, big old hands, right? So I looked at him and I said, yes, I can make most men feel inadequate. Well, that was it. The whole place just went into uproar with hysterics, right? He was made to go, right? He never, ever stepped out of line with me again. And I got a bit of respect. Now, I shouldn't have had to have done that, but I did. And I realized that what you just said was the most, I had to meet them where they were at, not where I was at, right? I had to go to their level, not them come to mine.
Yeah.
And that's a very hard thing to do when you think you're walking into an environment where everybody wants you.
Yeah. Can I add to that very, very quickly, Paulette? Sharon, you are a genius. Sharon has emotional intelligence. That she really has. And I tell you why. She's made an amazing comment. Before that, a couple of messages before that, she's like, "Hey, Annie," to make sure I'm looking. And I looked, and that's I wouldn't send you a comment otherwise, Sharon. But thank you so much. So, and when I keep saying about knowing what you want and how to do it, that's a conversation we're having, really, right? I will say a couple of things from what Michelle has said and what you're saying, Paulette. I think the first one is we need to stop being judgmental. We need to stop assuming. That's what the listening does, right? Actually learn to listen to people. And then I think we need to begin to be more flexible. We need to offer people other options. Look, yesterday, examples. Yesterday, I'm sitting here. So one of my co-hosts tried to do an event off LinkedIn, right? Or not off YouTube. It didn't work. Now, what I've been saying to her, I don't know why it's not working. It always works, right? It always works. What are you doing wrong? Last night, it dawned on me that systems are different. You just mentioned the Mac, Paulette. I think Windows and Macs are so different. I saw it this evening when I was trying to help my wife to convert this PDF. I learned basically stop for a second and think, how can I meet them where they are? What can we do a bit different to accommodate this person's situation and feeling? Something's going wrong somewhere, clearly, right? So this co-host of mine, I thought, my solution was, okay, let me find a video on YouTube to show her what she has to do to go live on YouTube. But suddenly she realized that she hasn't met the requirements. It's not that she's dumb. That's not why it wasn't working. It's because there's requirements to meet. There's criteria to meet. And I'm saying, and many people hide behind, it's our procedure, it's our process, it's the way we do things here. Don't follow the procedure. I'm not listening to you. You're wrong if you can't adapt to our way of doing things. I think, but we need to be more inclusive, more understanding. What does this person need? What can we do differently to accommodate them? give them what they want, and we get what we want. And what we all want as businesses, as service providers, Paulette, is a happy customer. Go on, Paulette. I see you thinking.
The hardest thing in the world is to have the insight and the willingness to have a perspective for other people. And that's kindness and generosity. And for me, we aren't necessarily always kind, and we aren't necessarily always generous with our willingness to listen and our willingness to go the extra mile, to do something extra for somebody. And I think we need to go back to that. I think we need to go back to looking out for each other. And I think we need to go back to being part of a community. I think that's what we're lacking now. We've all become these solo units, and we need, because of COVID, partly, COVID made us all very introverted and all very insular and all very on our own. And getting back out there has been so hard for so many people. I mean, one of Ben's university friends just didn't want to leave the house, you know, to go back to university, because it was like they're in that position where they just didn't have the confidence. They had it before COVID, but after COVID and spending that much time locked in, they suddenly felt very, very much they needed their family around them. Is that wrong? No, it just means we have to delay it a year and we'll go again next year. But you have to meet people, like Michelle said, where they are at. And it's no good me saying to that student, get your ass out the door, here's your suitcase, your bag's packed, you're off to uni, because he'll be back 2 weeks later with his tail between his legs going, I'm so unhappy, or worse. And that's not good for anybody. So we have to be mindful that we have to meet people where they're at, and we have to get back to community and caring and being responsible for each other. I think that would be wonderful if we could get back to being responsible for each other, having heart at the center of everything. Wouldn't that be a great place to be? And I think that would change even the send conversation, the IEPs. I get so angry. I mean, it's one of those things that makes you pull that funny face that I told you about earlier on, that the boys run away from, you know, the angry one. Because I cannot understand when you've gone through so much to get that IEP. No one understands what it's like to get the bloody IEP in the first place. And then when you get it and it can't be implemented because of X, Y, and Z reason, or this person or that person or whatever, I'm like, I'm like Michelle, stick 'em up, and that's because we know we only want the best for our children, and that's nothing to be ashamed of. That's everything to be proud of. And we only want the best for ourselves too. And we deserve that. And that's being empathetic to ourselves. And I think that one of the other things that I would say, just very, very to finish off on that one, tomorrow's conversation will be very heated because there'll be a lot of people who'll be there who'll just agree with us, right? Which is not really an argument. It's just a conversation where everyone's going to, yeah, it's terrible what they're doing, but what can we do about it? Well, we can stick them up and go to war, but does that get us to the end goal? The biggest problem we have in our country is they say, oh, we've looked in the bag of money, right? And there isn't any. We looked inside it and there wasn't any money left. So we're very sorry, but that can't happen, right? And then we're all saying, find another bag of money. Go look somewhere else. Go have a little delve in a different cupboard. You know, just saying I've looked in there and there's nothing in there and it can't happen because of it is not the answer. The answer is that child deserves what it needs to have. If they've had an IEP or they're going through the process of getting an IEP, what the bloody hell point is there in putting the child and the parent through all of that if there's nothing at the end of it? It's like making them do, you know, a a 26-mile marathon with a high heel shoe and a sandal, or no shoe and a high heel shoe in a bikini, right? Running around, men and women running around doing the marathon. That's how hard it is. I'm serious. I know I'm
It's
making a joke of it, but
no.
they stick obstacles in the way, and they'll put a bit of string across to trip you up, and they'll throw those, you know, those things down they do to cut the tires, you know. They'll throw like a load of spikes down to catch you as you run past. That's what it feels like to get an IEP. And when you get the bloody
Nice
thing,
monkey wrench gets thrown in.
yeah, thank you, yeah. And
No,
somebody's throwing, hang on, I haven't finished yet. We've got somebody throwing dung from the side as you're running around, right? And that's what it feels like. I can't tell you how bloody hard it is. It feels like you're pulled every tooth out, every hair out, and you are left spent. But you've
Thank
got
you.
your
For
IEP.
I need to leave. Thank you so much, though.
Oh,
I
thank
need
you.
to
Roxana,
leave.
thank you for coming, darling. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for
Thank
coming.
you.
For joining
Thank you
us.
so much for teaching me. I appreciate that. I learned a lot from you.
Yeah, we'll learn from
Hey,
you too,
excellent. I'm
Professor.
pleased.
We'll
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
I'll make the change on the book, Professor, and then
Okay.
I'll contact you to log into your KDP and do what I have to then publish the book. Next book is
Okay,
coming
great.
out in a couple
All
of
right.
days.
Thank you. Thank
Take
you
care.
so much.
Thank
Look,
you.
you see,
So
So
I
the
think
point I'm making, Annie, is when you've got this IEP that is so important, and you've got to that hurdle, and then they say, "Oh, we've looked and there's no money in the pot, can't afford it," right? That's like the biggest kick in the teeth you could ever have. And I feel that for every single parent of a disability, whatever the disability, whether it's a neurodivergence, whether it's a physical disability, whatever it is, if they've got to have some sort of support in school, whether it's a TA or whatever, and the school says we've got no budget, we can't accommodate you. We're sorry. You know, off you go. You know, it's like
hold on. No, Misha, give me 1 second. I'll come to you. I promise I'll come to you in a second. I want to apply Sharon's comments to the situation you're describing, Paulette. Sometimes we can't do everything. We can't help everyone, right? And because as Sharon says, sometimes we just don't have the emotional bandwidth to support others the way they are asking because we're using our emotional bandwidth for ourselves, right? I think the same goes for institutions, like you talk about IEPs, Paulette. I think I take Sharon's last point at the end of her comment. It's okay to let them know in a polite and respectful way. I'm saying the people who work the systems, it's not just what they say, it's how they say it. And the frustration that I've worked with people with disabilities, Paulette, and parents are furious the world over. They're so angry. They can't bring themselves almost to address the issue with the system. They're beyond frustrated. They're beyond annoyed. They're beyond angry. They're beyond I want to kill someone because my needs are not being met or even being listened to. And I think it comes down to that polite and respectful way that they're not spoken to. Michelle, I think, calls it being dismissed. Whoever you are, I think we need to learn to be polite and respectful in how we communicate. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. It's what you say, but also how you say it. Is what I'll say. We have to learn to communicate in a way that makes others feel heard, feel respected. And I'm not saying parents will be happy for that. I'm saying they will be happier to at least know why you're saying no. And maybe it's a no now, but we are going to find the money somewhere because Let's have a conversation tomorrow, Paulette. Otherwise, we could be here all day, right? Let
I
me work
think
on plan.
I think it doesn't just have to be that. I thank you, Sharon. I loved every minute of it. Hi, Platine. I think what I would also say is that you are, when you're in a situation where countries are in financial messes, right? The world over, economies in a mess the world over. Does my child deserve something any less than anybody else's child? We'll have that conversation tomorrow. But when it comes to how we're spoken to, when it comes to how we speak to others, yeah, we can be respectful, we can be kind, we can always be empathetic towards other people. We can always find the bandwidth to be kind, to be nice, right? Cross you or be unkind or be difficult or be nasty or spiteful, and then you've got this trigger system where you've gone, as I said, back to the dial again. You go, can I stay in the green? No, I've gone from the green into the amber. Can I stay in the amber, or am I floating around to going to the red? And your mind is doing exactly that. Can I deal with it? Where do I stop? It's almost like an arrow floating around. And if we can stop in the green, we've done a lot of work. We've done a lot of work. Most people sit in the amber. That's a fact. We go to the amber, which is kind of like no man's land. We're neither committal nor non-committal. We just kind of go, we'll go make a cup of tea and we'll talk about it in a minute. You leave the room, right? The way that most situations are dealt with are put off. Can we talk about this tomorrow? Let's have this conversation tomorrow, like with me with the resignation note. You can put distance and time in the middle of any of these situations, and they make it slightly more bearable because you both have time to go away, think about the situation, come back. Doesn't mean you're going to come back any less heated, but it does mean that you've got the time to hopefully pull together a more respectful, more empathetic, and more communicative response than you would have done in the spare of the moment. That's
I agree
all we're
100%.
talking about.
Really, truly, that's exactly it. Michelle, I'll come to you. Michael, we do want to hear from you before we go, and we do have to go sometime soon because I have another event in half an hour. Michelle, talk to us. You're muted. Hey, there you are.
I think the word bandwidth I would change to boundary, and that it's like it took me a lot to learn. It is so easy to just say, I have boundaries. The real work comes when you need to enforce set boundaries, and you need to, like, I was led to believe it was holding somebody else accountable, but the reality is I have to hold myself accountable to enforce that boundary that I had to set for myself. And when it comes to the emotional intelligence aspect of it, it's like earlier you have made that statement, like, if you don't have something nice to say, you don't say it. And I'm just like, no, you do say it. But it's a matter of, usually those are the things that most need to be heard, but they don't get said because, like, most often the delivery and the approach and manner to say them is not done to be an impactful way. So I just, it's not that I disagree, it's just I am that one. I say what nobody says, but it took me a long time of self-work and learning how to meet people where they are, or even for myself, like, I didn't think I was worthy enough to sit in rooms with doctors or lawyers and talk about policy, and I do this. And it's like, you have to know where to meet people, how to engage with them, what to engage about. It's, some people too, what is your place in their life? What is your role? Me and Annie will go back, around this a lot, because I think also that the terms get thrown around. Everybody's not your friend. I don't raise my daughter to believe everybody is your friend, if that makes sense. It's like how your emotional intelligence is going to be what that role of that person is in your life. Not saying like I will treat the CEO the same way I would treat a janitor, you know what I mean? But my friend, my confidant is going to be given more grace, or there's going to be more, vulnerability versus an acquaintance or a colleague, and that's where me and Eddie have a lot of debating back and forth.
I think though, I'm kind of any says everybody is your friend. I don't know that everybody is your friend. I just think you can be nice to people to the point when they're unpleasant to you. I don't believe that you have to take crap off anyone. And if somebody is giving you crap, then you've got every right to give crap back. Now, you don't have to give it at the moment, because I always like to think about my crap. So if I'm going to throw crap, I'm going to have thought about it. And I'm going to have really worked out what I'm going to say, how I'm going to say it, and why I'm going to say it, and stand by it. And that's probably the difference between just going like that. There you go. Bat it back at them, right? I would rather take it, hold it, think about it, come back with what I feel is the right retort and what is worthy of that particular situation.
I would rather give
and
like a
I also,
response versus a reaction.
yeah. And that's where, if you like, when we say you don't teach your daughter that everyone's your friend, no, absolutely not, because they're not. But what we can say is you can greet everybody with a smile. If they don't smile back, or they don't give you the vibe that they want to be anything to do with you, then we go, thank you very much. We put them in the not friendly bin, right? And then we carry on and we meet the friendly one, right? That's how I taught my son. That's how I've taught other children. And in the book New School Niggles, it's all about will I make friends? That fear of will I make friends? And it is social cues that we don't teach. We don't explain about facial expressions. We don't explain about some people don't like to be touched like any. Some people are not huggers. Some people are just not.
Don't keep telling them. They think I'm the loveliest, Paul. They think I'm a big teddy bear.
No. Annie is not a hugger. It doesn't change who you are. It just states the point. But when I've chased him around my garden, he looks like a terrified little spaniel. And there's me chasing him on one stick trying to hug him, and he's like running away from me. But the picture, the scene, it's quite amusing, really. But the point that you're making, Michelle, is absolutely right. We really do have to have the ability to have a reply to everybody, and we always have the right to reply. And not everybody will respect it, but not everybody will respect you. And that's life. And we just go through life going, okay, that's on that pile, that's on that pile, that's on that pile. And I'm very happy to do that. I'm very happy to go, not my cup of tea. Yep, that's my cup of tea. No, not my cup of tea. And that's life now. That's life. And when you're in communities, say it again.
So I have a question for both of you. So like when it comes to the emotional intelligence of it all and the breaking down of it, so like the approach is like, what do you do when you're in a compromising position with individuals where Their assumptions are what is making the fester points. Their assumption of what they believe to be issues. Like we already know about communication and all of those things. But regardless of how much somebody communicates, assumptions can literally destroy anything. And how do you handle those? Because like you can lead, you can take it to the water, you can't make it drink.
The thing about assumptions is assumptions presume. So can we add presumption? Okay. So it's not just assumption, it's presumption. So they presume something about you that they don't know, right? That they may have heard, that they may have made up, that they may have just decided, or there was an interaction and somebody said something and it went, you know how Chinese whispers go. So presumption is where I take that presumption and I say, you have no right to presume that about me because you don't know me. If you'd like to get to know me, then you've got the chance to prove those presumptions wrong. But if you're going to live with those presumptions, then the conversation doesn't even get any further than this. Door closed. And it has to be that way because we talk about the boundaries. If someone is presuming something about you and you can't get through to them to give your account of what happened, or your account of what happened in school, or your account of what happened at work or whatever, then you can't talk to stupid, right? You can't argue with stupid. So if stupid won't listen, then you have to say, I'm sorry, you can't be in my camp. Sorry, you don't get to belong in my team. And so when you talk about assumptions, I just want you to put the pre in front and just understand that there are presumptions about you or presumptions about a situation. And then think about, if I can change that presumption, will that make me a better person? Will that make me feel better? Will that make me feel any different? And if the answer is no, then I wouldn't even bother. I'd go straight in the bin pile and move on. Because when people are making presumptions about you all day, every day, when you put yourself on this situation here, right? When you put yourself out there to say, I'm going to do one of these show things, you're putting yourself out there for people to have opinions, right? And as soon as they've got an opinion, there's nothing I can do about it. They might not like my hair, they might not like my glasses, they might not like my cushion behind me or whatever. They don't like me having a drink of hot honey and ginger. Well, I wouldn't get through the show without it. So, if you don't like it, bye. I'm not going to stop drinking it because I need to. Presumptions are very, very dangerous. And they're not using emotional intelligence. Presumptions are not part of emotional intelligence. Presumptions are part of something very different, which is actually negative self-talk. So it's negative self-talk about yourself, about other people, and then you pass it on. It's like rumor, and rumor is the same thing. Does that help?
It was more just getting a different thought of it, I suppose. I'm pretty unwavering for myself. So, for me, it's, you can believe what you want.
That is fine. Look, I think from my perspective, it's the fact that we choose how we act, how we behave, right? And we have to choose, so deliberately choose every time, intentionally choose. What's going to get me what's going to get me what I want? As let's say is, if that's not going to happen, I can choose either how I blow this up Do they really know how I feel? Or I may choose to respond in a more, what's the word I'm looking for? In a calmer manner. But I must make my point. So I think to make my point calmly, I'll say, Michelle, is communicate. Keep communicating. Keep communicating. Keep saying. Keep writing. Find a way to get them to understand. I know you, and I know you always write that letter. Michelle will write a letter. 10 pages, she writes it. She just spends the time writing it. So I'll try and keep it short. Bullet points. I do the bullet points.
I just spent like 72 hours writing. Like almost straight. Like, I mean, little bro, you seen Kenny and little messages here and there, but like phone in airplane mode, walking Cody in nature, and just solid writing.
Yeah, look,
Well,
I guess.
I've got an opinion.
Michael, say I'll come to you in 10 seconds, right? I think what people don't realize is when you have emotional intelligence, when you do explode, the world goes, wow, effing hell. What's that? Now that they're pissed. They're pissed. Not maybe, not what they're thinking. They're like, and don't think we don't all get angry. When people get angry, people go like, oh, the world's gone wrong. What's gone wrong? And suddenly looking around, that's what they're doing around, and they're like, what's gone wrong? What happened? But that's a choice that we make, and it's rare that we get so angry that we explode at the world. But sometimes we have to. It's a choice we make. Is my point. It's a choice we make. But when we do it, we know what we're doing. We know why we're doing it. Does it help us? Maybe I think it does. So if you do it rarely, I think that does it harm us? Maybe. But as Paulette said, by the time we choose to react like that or to respond like that, we have put that person, that situation in that bin of unsolvable, never to be resolved in my way, the way I want. Michael, please talk to us.
Well, I just, while you guys were talking, I was perusing through LinkedIn, and I saw this article or post showing Shaq O'Neal hugging or in a venue with the president, Trump, and engaging him in conversation, and then hugging him, and I guess when the conversation ended, and then I guess going off to do whatever else he needed to do. Folks jump on that, will say he's betraying us. I can't believe he did that. No, Shaq by nature is trying to be a different person. He's built different. He thinks different. The way he operates is different, and you can see it in the way he exudes himself around the world. And you can also see it because when you actually meet him, I do not believe that you can hold, if you have any negative associations with what he does or whatever he's done, I do not believe you can hold that for long because you get to realize that he's just being himself. He's just being himself. He does not go into a battle. He did not go into that venue for a battle. He went into that venue because he was genuinely loving the venue and he wanted to get positive things out of there, not negative things. And if he sees a negative person, he's not going to go in there and make the whole entire, venue, turn the entire venue negative because he's there. No. But he can do something positive. He can be a representative, say something nice, say something genuinely him that comes from himself, from his aspiration. And maybe Trump will get it that we're not enemies. And that's probably just another, you know, another chip to put in Trump's pocket so that he can understand who we are and what we are and where we're coming from. We're not his enemies. We'd rather be friends and just move on. Not necessarily friends, but we'd rather just get along and go on and do our own things. And the hug meant a lot. I don't know if it was just superficial for Trump, but at least from my perspective, um, Shaq did a lot in that regards, just giving him a hug, even though his heart might be recoiling from all that activity, but he's changing himself. It takes a lot of work to do EI,
Yeah.
and that's his emotional intelligence
Mm.
that he applied, and that is what Paulette is talking about, and that's what Michelle is talking about. That's what you, Annie, are talking about. Being able to control yourself and
Mm.
bring out the light instead of the darkness. Very nice. I like what he did, and I like this conversation. I'd also like to add that there's something that Annie said about you giving the best from the best. There's a saying that I usually, and that reminded me of a saying that I usually post every once in a while, or a mantra. It's not even a saying, it's my mantra. Every day that I wake up, I have to go through this. I promise to give the best to the best from the best. That is my edict. That is my mantra. And there's also something else I gathered from Annie and Paulette and Michelle combined, and that is to be a better person to yourself. You can be a better person to yourself by being a better person to the universe.
I
It's a thing
agree.
about karma.
Mm.
Yeah,
If
100%,
you
Michael. I definitely say yes on that one.
Mm.
if you go about giving distributing good vibes, using your energy to create positive energy, you're losing your positive energy. But in return, the universe has a tendency of giving it back, returning it back.
Mm.
That karma that you have sent out, which is positive, will come back to you. Always think about what you do, the effect that you're having in this world
Mm.
as you travel or traverse through it, and learning from it is, at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you've done something positive and that you've given positive energy out so that you can be refilled the next day by the
Yeah.
universe, because it
Mm.
will. It's not, try it. Just try it. Give it a shot. You have
Yeah.
nothing to lose.
Thanks for and everything to gain.
Later. Mhm.
Yeah. Nice. Superb, Michael. Awesome.
Mic drop. Mic drop.
It was what wait. It's worth waiting for. Now, Michael, everything you say, my friend, I think we
The thing
agree
is
with.
that Michael, the thing as well, Annie, that Michael just said, that what you put out is what you get back. I do agree. Sometimes it doesn't feel like that. Sometimes you feel like you're up against a mountain and you're thinking, I can't climb that mountain. I can't do it. I can't get to the top because it's too high, it's too big, it's too this, it's too that. And the only way you can do it is one step at a time. And that's the route that we all have to take in life. And I think that a lot of people want to run up the mountain. A lot of people want to go from 0 to hero and wonder why they've not got 10,000 followers in 2 weeks, or why they haven't got, been offered a job on YouTube as a influencer or whatever. Life isn't like that. It's a steady old slog, day in, day out, doing the job that you're doing and making it as pleasurable and as pleasant for yourself and for those around you. That's it. Full stop. Coming home and going, I've done a good day at the office, or being working from home and saying, I've had a good day at the office. No issues, no problems. Everyone was happy. Get on with life in the evening, and that's all we really want. Nobody wants hassle. Hassle comes to us, right? No one goes looking for it. Michelle doesn't wake up every morning going, now who can I have a fight with today? Right? That's not. No, I'm telling you, I know you don't do that. I know you don't do that. But the point is, when you do need to fight, you're happy to roll your sleeves up, right? So to finish off on this room, for me, it's about learning to actively listen so that we try to go think about the circle or the dial on the oven, where we try and keep it in the cool, in the green zone, and not get into the amber, so we don't start heading around to the red. Keep your emotions intact and try to address whatever the problem is with either time in between, so you've both got a bit of time to think about what's been said or understand the other person's perspective. And I think those are the big lessons for me. And I'll just finish again. The 3 C's are consciousness, mindfulness, or being mindful of emotions, compassion, being empathetic towards others and yourself, connectiveness, so the ability to get on with people. They're the 3 key EIs for me. And then the 4 pillars, we say, are self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and self-within relationship management. And that was the one that Annie was like, what? And when I explain what I mean, it's being able to manage yourself at the point when you're about to blow, right?
Yeah.
And go, deep breath, walk away. Yeah. That's the key. Hello,
Teddy, don't get off my space. I swear, Teddy. He's looking at me. Are you talking to me?
He
Yes,
looked up
Teddy.
then.
He's looking at me. He's still looking at me now.
What's this?
What are you doing, Teddy?
He's like,
Yeah.
whoa, someone's shouting at me.
You're a good boy, Teddy. You're a good boy.
So they're the key things. We can put the 3 C's and the 4 R's in the comments, but it's just a way of trying to keep yourself mindful of what we've spoken about, and we will move forward with kindness. That's really the key. Kindness. I think you used a different word to my kindness. Annie, what was your word?
I use the word love these days. Genuine love for
Love.
people.
Yes, because you've been reading a book about love. You're all loved up.
Return
Yeah.
to
All right. We'll go with love. We'll go with love. Any style. No hugging. no
I
hugging, but lots of love.
Michelle B's word is breathe. I like that. Michelle says when we communicate, we learn to be friends. And that's the truth of it. That's what we try to talk about today. So look, my friends, this is a journey. So I think we all have our moments. We all do. The best, the greatest, most successful people have the moments. I think I might say where I learned to start is catch yourself. Catch yourself that moment Paulette was just talking about. That moment when you're about to blow. Don't send that email. Don't send that message. Don't shout. Take a moment. Yes, look at the message that's annoying you and then go away and think about it and think, right, how am I going to respond to it? Now let's just slow down a bit and let's learn to just calm down and then choose a response. If you catch us, when I catch myself going down the angry any route, I don't say a word. I just literally hang back and normally go offline and really think about it and then come back with a response. It might be the same one I had in mind in the first place, but at least I've chosen that. Let's learn to slow down a bit and then try and find Win-win, win-win, says Paulette. Win-win is the word. Win-win. We can all win. I get a bit of what I want, you get a bit of what you want, they get a bit of what they want. Everyone's happier. No, maybe not happy. They're happier than they were when we started the conversation. That's the best we can do, right? My friends, I really must go. Paulette knows this. If you bought Coach David's book on book launch day, Michael, you did. Michelle B, I think you're in a draw. Paulette, you're in a draw for sure. And so many amazing people helped
Where's
us make
my money?
It's a prize draw, my friend. The money is in this next event. Join us, Michael. Let's see if you won, right? I'll see you all there.
Because I'll be going to bed.
No, we're talking 5 minutes. It's actually 4 minutes, Paulette. 4 minutes. Okay. You still be there. Come on, Paulette. Right. Have I found my no. Oh. I'm definitely not to play any music for you today, Paulette. Okay.
That's music. I'm just gonna do the shaky thing.
No, I don't want. That's why I don't want you doing Paulette. Yeah, no, I have managed to screw it up. Michael, Michelle, what are your last words before we leave today? What's your last word today, my friend?
I think to piggyback, like keeping with Paulette's C's and R's, right? I think that it is so when you connect, then you can rise. And you need to connect and rise to heal. So I think that so I think that like I need to, connect and remember that it's my truth. These are my situation, and still be able to rise to the occasion to not be connected to my truth, but open to others as well.
For sure. Yeah. I like that.
That's good.
Mr. Michael, what say you? Michael, you're still muted. That's my screen's not letting me put you on screen. Michael, what's your final message today, my friend? Michael? No, Michael's not muted. Okay. All right, look, my friends, you have been absolutely amazing as always. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, we'll say we're back here again in 2 weeks' time, but we're not back here again tomorrow. Not mental wellness, but let's say our Let's Talk Neurodivergence event. If you can add to our conversation at all, please do join us. Come and share with us. We'd love to learn from your experiences, learn from your strategies, your solutions.
IEPs?
Yes.
IEPs?
Yeah. Yeah, look, and it's going to be passionate. I think there's many angry people. There's so many angry people that people don't realize.
I don't think it's anger though. It's there's a lot of unheard voices.
Yeah, good way to describe it. Look, my friends, do enjoy. So I'm going to send some DMs out. So otherwise, do go to my profile and find our next event with Coach David. Thank you so much. Good luck. You might win.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah,
thanks, Michelle.
Time.
Amazing.
Time. I don't mind staying in the rain.
Global.Media.com and celebrate it with or without champagne or rum. Achieve success with Global.Media.